Welcome, one and all, to the SuperCoach Hub AFL podcast. Tonight, we're going to be doing our predictions on the top 10 defenders in SuperCoach. So, hopefully, we can give you some insights into what we're thinking and maybe some smokies that might pop up. My name's Nathan. My handle on Twitter, or X as the cool kids call it, is at ScobyBryant36. I'm always up for a discussion and always keen to lay into some Carlton supporters like yourself, Damo. But first, Ferns, do you want to introduce yourself, mate?
Yeah. So for everyone, I'm Verns. I run my own YouTube channel, just Verns SuperCoach. Have been jumping on the SuperCoach Hub to be helping out with their NBL season, as I've been doing that in the off season. As you can tell from the shirt, who I support. But yeah, I'm really pumped to get into this content. Honestly, so excited to have the AFL season here. Like that's just awesome. I personally had a pretty good season last season. I came 317th, so hoping
Very nice.
to recreate that this year.
Very nice, mate. Well, you finished a lot higher than I. I pooed the bed, so to speak, and finished. I think it was 4,500 and something. So definitely and utterly disgusting. Damo, introduce yourself, mate. You've been on this a couple of times from the BBL pod. Best videographer in the land. Apparently doesn't know how to hold water in a container or a drink bottle. That's why we had a little bit of a delay. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good, going well. First and foremost, Frank Green bottles. Don't waste your money because the lid just comes straight off. But anyway, nonetheless, yes, viewers would be familiar with me because I actually stepped into your shoes, Scobes, for one episode.
Yes.
I was being a bit of a guest host for BBL Supercoach and gave you a bit of cheek, as you would have filtered through to you, of course,
yes,
related
absolutely.
to your man, Matt Short. Yep. Have you got the jumper there?
It's currently,
on your wall. Tell me it's on your wall.
No, I need to get a frame for it. The actual, the only thing that's been framed of, I guess, sporting pedigree is the 2023 grand final team picture. So we all know what happened there. Vern's a massive fan of it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was just a wonderful day. I do still hold a special place in my heart for Brisbane because ultimately them coming back and beating Carlton from 5 goals down was absolutely pristine and beautiful.
And it may have been a different result as well if that didn't occur. So we'll leave it at that. But maybe we might meet in the big dance in 2024. Fingers crossed. I was hoping. Like imagine the crowd, imagine the atmosphere. But we'll see.
No, just to touch on that, I completely agree, mate. I know we beat Brisbane by, it was 10 points and it was one of the best days of my life. But I mean, beating Carlton by 70 points in a grand final, that would have been even better. So, I mean, wonderful. That would have been wonderful. But we'll move on.
Let's get on.
So we're going to stagger it a little bit because I can see there's a lot of comments from the comment section. As people that listen to the BBL pod would know, some of them we can't actually read out. So please try your best to keep it at least PG. We might let a couple slip depending on how funny they are, but we'll try and do our best to be good Christian citizens. But the way we're going to do this is we're going to be going through what we think the top 10 defenders are. We're going to be starting at number 10. And in my eyes, that's going to be Lockie Whitfield. Now, I know he had preseason surgery last year, but I really think I've read a few things that he's been touted to just have that halfback role. Now, we all know that Whitfield's main strength is just running and running and running, and he can do it all day. So I really think if he's actually fully fit, he'd probably slide into, 10th best defender of the year. So that's my pick for the 10th. Ferns, who's yours, mate?
Yeah, so I put Nash there. I butcher his name every time. That's Wagner Miller from St Kilda. I'm expecting a big year from him. I mean, he had a big bump last year. Honestly, get another year, preseason under his belt, like a bit more comfortable with the role. We sort of saw halfway through the year last year, St Kilda got more comfortable with him in that role. They started the year off, they weren't really using him. He took him a bit to get used to it, but then his second half of the year, he was absolute fire. And I really think that, another year in that system, in that position, he's going to be pushing top 10, I think. So, yeah.
No, completely understood. Completely understood. I did see a stat the other day though that the St Kilda boys, a trio of Wangane Malira and Sinclair and Jack Steele, they don't do as well away from Marvel as they do at Marvel. Now, from
Yeah.
what I can see, they only play pre-buy only 5 out of 14 at Marvel. So does that come into your thinking at all when you're, I guess, trying to pick these breakout top 10 players, mate?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, when we trade them in, that's something that we can take into account when we're trading them in. I think throughout the overall season, though, it will balance out. I really do rate Nas as a player. I mean, he's
Yep.
just, I think something that's underestimated is how big he is as well. Like, he's
Yep.
really, really fucking big. And he just doesn't have any, muscle or anything on him. He's still a boy, really. So give him a year to get built into that. If Sinclair, which St Kilda have been trying to do, he transitions a little bit more into that midfield role, then there's going to be more
Yeah.
ball for him down there. And I just think over the year it will balance out enough for him to be a premium, top 10 averager throughout the year. But as you mentioned, for a pick purposes, maybe you don't start him, maybe you grab him later on when he's got a better Marvel run. But we're obviously doing this for an average over the season, so I think he can slide into 10 for me.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. Damo, what's your thoughts on the 10th highest averaging Supercoach defender, mate?
Yeah, it's always a tough one in terms of trying to rank them in specific order. But I do like, just on Miller as well, I do like the look of him. Was very tempted by him last year as well. Very underrated. Came into low ownership before people cottoned on, of course. But I think, yeah, there's a chance that he could step up. The one thing that worries me with him is Sinclair, potentially seagulling a bit of his points. But if Sinks... It's been a bit of a weird one with Sinclair because he's been pushed up as sort of a high sort of halfback more than anything into the midfield, a bit of a wing role at times as well. But don't mind Miller. So he's hovering around about that 10th mark for me. But I do also like Luke Ryan from Freo, and mainly because, I mean, I'll admit in the past I haven't been a massive fan of him, but I think now with Hayden Young, can we say officially moving into Freo's midfield, into their engine room, it should free up a fair bit of real estate for Ryan to really, strut his stuff and do his thing. Kick-ins is really a big thing with him. Intercept marking. In the past, I haven't really been a massive fan of him just because he's been asked at times to play more of a lockdown defender role, which kind of, puts a limit on the scoring ceiling of him. Where he does his best work, which is virtually as a drifting third defender, loose man in defence. But I think there's a bit more there, a bit more meat in the bone for him from what we saw late in the season, especially when Hayden Young went into the midfield. So I don't mind him as a bit of an outsider for a top 10.
No, completely understandable. I think he went on a very, very good run at the end of last year, and there'd be some games where he'd be sitting on, 70 going into that last quarter. It didn't look like he was going to do anything, and then ends up on 120, 130. So the man can definitely explode. He knows how to get those points, and yeah, he's just a really good Supercoach asset. I've got him ranked a little bit higher, but we'll move on. My 9th ranked player is Nick Newman. I just feel I don't think he's in that top echelon, but he's definitely good enough to obviously increase his pedigree, keep going, get those kicks. He's got a beautiful left foot, an absolute weapon of a kick, and really, really done well since moving from Sydney. So I reckon he could just go 1 point higher than Whitfield. I've currently got him at 103 average for the season. So that's my pick for the 9th highest ranked. Vern, who's yours, mate?
Yeah. Look, quickly on Newman, I do have him. I put him as 104 for the average, so definitely thinking the same there. He's not my 9th though. My 9th, it's actually a pair of St Kilda boys to round out my top 10. It's actually Sinclair, which is a bit of a drop for him, dropping down. But I do think he will have regression this year. At the end of the day, he's moved into this midfield, and honestly, he just hasn't scored as well in the midfield. As you mentioned, he's definitely an outside. So he's not He's not like Jack Steele. He doesn't get in there and grab the ball. He's the outside mid that he wants someone to give him that relief possession. Which, look, honestly, people are talking about Steele looking a lot bigger and a lot stronger this year. So maybe a better Jack Steele might result in better points for Sinclair. But look, when we have seen him in the midfield, I don't think he's been as damaging as behind the ball. And his scores are so hard to tell because they're really yin yang. He'll come out and put a 60, but then he'll put a 130, and it's just. it's not really consistent a lot of the time. It's up and down and all over the shop. And I just liked him behind the ball a bit more than I liked him on the ball. And I do think St Kilda have been trying to push him onto the ball, so I do think it will regress his ceiling, as well as you mentioned before, Damo. Nas will, I think, naturally regress his ceiling as well. So I've put him as number 9.
Yep, understood. Completely valid. Yeah, nothing more to add to that. Damo, who's your 9th, mate?
Yeah, I'll probably go without sitting on the fence because I mentioned him in the last one, but I'll go Miller here. I think there's a bit of a step up in his average. Verns, you touched on it nicely there in terms of what he can produce. A third year in the system now, I think he's kind of at that bracket where he should elevate his average by at least maybe 10, maybe 15 points if he's lucky. But I am, as I said, and as you've said as well, Vern's just there, sort of cramping style when it comes to Sinclair and Miller. But just on Newman, that's a very, very unique one from both of you boys. I didn't expect that. So that's thrown me. But are you at all worried? Because I do, obviously being a bagger, I know him quite intimately, look through his window at night, all that sort of stuff. But no, as a bagger, I do know him quite well. But I am worried about, with Sard already there, as a bit of a, almost too many cooks in the kitchen, with the return of Zach Williams, I think that might put a bit of a ceiling and a bit of a cap on, from what we saw, Newman, and what was the last 10 games or something, he was absolutely mammoth in his scoring. There is enough reason to select him, but I think the return of Zach Williams might cramp his style, but I do like it as a bit of a pod selection, which I think he will be.
I love how you've brought that up, mate, because it's just a comment from Josh Garlick. Now, this bloke, if you let me rephrase that. If you want to know anything about rookies, this man knows everything. Follow him on Twitter. He's got everything. He knows. He's Cal Twomey 2.0. So he's very good with his rookies. Very good with his rookies. So I saw, just to sidetrack, Jay, you mentioned a comment before about a 102K rookie that will play. Get onto Joshy's DMs. I'm sure you're already there. But he's posted as well. Does the return of Williams affect Newman at all, even if it's only 5 points? Now, I absolutely love just getting stuck into Carlton supporters about a bloke that they paid $850K for to play 23 games in 3 years. Now, I don't care if you've done an ACL, a hamstring, or broken your neck. You're not playing football. It's simple as that. Your one job is to play football. If you're not doing that, you're not doing your job correctly. It's pretty obvious. Like, the man's a genius. He's the best impersonator of an AFL footballer you will ever see. Absolutely ever see. Look, he's currently in my side. There's a reason that he's, I guess, just over 200K. But is he going to affect Newman? In my opinion, he probably does. But I think Newman still goes above 100, honestly. I don't see Williams playing the entire season at all. And we know that Newman can have those massive, massive games where he just goes absolutely nuclear. So that's my take on that one. What do you think, Verns? What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, look, since we're on to number 8 now, I'll just start us off because I have Newman at number 8. And
I like that.
As you sort of mentioned, I do think Williams will impact him. But look, Doherty's moved up into the midfield sort of thing, assuming he's not returning to defense, which I don't think I've heard anything about him returning to defense. Newman in the second half of that year went absolutely ballistic, as we saw. And the reason his average was as low as it was to end the year was because of the start of the season. The start of his season, he had a few games that were really bad, 28 against Sydney, things that really brought down this average and skewed it in the negative direction. But then, Doherty moves up on ball. It becomes his defense, and he just explodes in the second half. I don't have the numbers in front of me of what his average would have been, but I reckon that would have been 110 plus on the back end of that year. So assuming he's coming into another good year, then, Williams may affect him as to why I've dropped him back a little bit, but I still think he'll be a top 10 defender in my opinion.
Yep, no, it's completely understandable. Completely agree with that. My 8th defender is Sinclair. And I just don't like the move into the midfield. Away from Marvel, he averages, I think it's a tick over 97. At Marvel, he averages, I think it's 106 or just under 107. I don't want to be paying that price for a bloke that plays at his favourite venue only 5 times before the bye. But in saying that, after it, he's a fantastic shout. So I think the early season playing away from his favourite ground, that's going to affect him, and that price is going to come down, and therefore that average will come down, because I don't think he's going to go as ballistic as what we've seen in the past. So I've got him at 104. That's my 8th highest. Ferns, what are you thinking for your 8th, mate?
Well, as I said, Newman was mine. I had him at
Newman.
104 as well, so it looks like we're on the same sort of track for what we're thinking rank-wise.
Yep.
But yeah, Damo, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a bit these sort of 8, 9, 10 spots. Very, very hard to pick. But I don't know if I should go back to the well with this bloke. But Jordan Ridley, is there hope there now with Mackay coming into the team as a key pillar in defence? Is it going to allow him to, be freed up and play that loose man in defence that we all know and love? Because obviously he nets us a fair few points. I don't know. I hold out a little bit of hope. I think he can get back to his days of old, averaging quite nicely, but there's still that question mark there. The other worry that I have with him is obviously his durability, which crept into his game last season, but a bit the season before as well. But I don't know, when he's freed up to play that loose game, he just can really be almost a top 6 averaging defender. So I still hold out a little bit of hope. I don't know if I'll start him, but I think he'll probably be my 8th at this stage.
Wonderful, mate. Wonderful. Completely. I mean, there was a year there where Ridley, I think, for the first 5 rounds, averaged 130. I brought him in, played a rainy game. I believe it was in Geelong, I think. And the ball hit him in the face and he was concussed in the first quarter, and that was it.
Yeah.
So that was weak to begin with. That's just weak. And then last year he was on fire, and then obviously that, I think it was a hyperextended knee, but I actually had him at 102 with Whitfield, so he was equal 10th. I reckon he's a superstar. And he seems to be a favourite of SuperCoach as well. Whatever he does, he just seems to get points. But we'll go to some comments now. And I like this one from Jay. Fisher, thoughts? And I assume that's obviously Zach Fisher that has gone from one rabble establishment to another. And he's been touted to be playing behind the ball. I think we've all seen that. But he's had a hammy twing. And they say it's awareness and whatnot, but he's on a modified program. They're going to see how he goes. What was our thoughts with Zach Fisher? Because he's actually a forward. I believe it's the 378K. Ferns, did you have any interest in that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, look, as you said, Fisher's a forward at the end of the day, but I am interested in him. I mean, we've seen it previously with these North defenders. They're premium super coaches. The ball lives in their defense, and it's Zeeble, Hall, Sheasel, whoever the distributor is from their defense line, they're a premium super coach pick. And they're always forward status for some reason. So you get these premium defenders that are in the forward line, which is a lower ceiling for a premium pick at the end of the day. And it's an easier role as well to manage with injuries. I mean, Zeeble injury prone, Hall injury prone. To be fair, Hall didn't stay on the park anyway, but that's another story. But it's an easier role to run than these in the mid or wing roles or something that's a bit more high demanding. So it's a premium role in SuperCoach, and if he gets it by round 1, he's doing full training. He's in my team, no questions asked.
Yep. No, understood. I'm just put off by that injury scare. Damo, what are you thinking, mate? Was he because obviously you would have watched him fairly closely.
Yeah, I did watch him closely, especially those sort of last games that he played of the year where he played in that defensive role. And it was, I mean, the one I do love Fish as a player, but the one big knock on his game is he crumbles under pressure. He does his best work when he has some outside space, can really has time to use the ball. Which, I think the game against the Saints, he scored 126, played that sort of distributor role, almost the quarterback as they call it. 96 he scored against Gold Coast, similar sort of role. And then he had a couple of games there where he scored a 61 on a 53. So I think there's going to be that variability in his scoring. But, like Vern's touched on there, going to North Melbourne, the ball lives in their defense. We've already seen with Jay-Z, how well he scored. Hall, even before him as well. Both of those guys are now gone. Whereas, this time last year, I was thinking about both of those guys and, who was going to step on whose toes in terms of, trying to steal points from one another. And then Sheasel, of course, as well, playing that role. So it frees up a bit of space there. And I think there is a fair chance that that Fish will stick around in defense, because that's kind of where he's shown the best form. And like I said, he's kind of suited to that outside role. And yeah, I think for me, he's a lock and load. That price, 378.6K, and a dual position player as well. Can't go much wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm just worried about this. I guess we're never going to know the truth or the severity behind it, but if he's on a modified program, it's really going to depend for me how long is he going to be on that modified program and what's going on there. Because, yeah, for a bloke like that, he's meant to be running it out of the back of the line, pinpointing kicks and whatnot. And he's done a hammy already. Well, not done a hammy, but injured it. That just screams danger to me. And 378, it's not super pricey. It's mid-price. It's not rookie. Just makes me think, do you go down to a rookie with that coin and then go up elsewhere? I'm not too sure. If he pumps out some very good scores in those practice matches, he's going to be straight in. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Joshy, the man that knows everything about rookies, are any of you worried about Dacos' early fixtures of McGuinness in round 4 and by round 5? Yes.
I'll start here if you want. I'm not starting Dacos in my team. So
nope.
That should answer the question.
Wow. I am. But I just think the worst he's going to drop, like barring injury, is max 50, max 70K. Where are you going to get the money in order to trade him in from all these rookies? Like if we're thinking 1 up, 1 down, or maybe 2 down, 1 up, that would work. But do you really want to use 3 trades on an upgrade? I'm not too sure I want to do that. I think even like Sicily price as well, just a tick under 650. These players are priced like that for a reason, and they're so hard to get into your team. So why not just start with them? I know if things go extremely well, theoretically you might be able to pick them up 100K cheaper, but I just don't see that happening. I think I'm willing to take 50K. I'm willing to take that for him still to be in my side, so I don't have to try and get him in. Verns, you said you're not starting him, mate. What's the reason behind that? Is it just too pricey, or
honestly,
does it relate to what Joshy said?
Yeah, it's fixture based. Him having a buy early, a lot of people aren't really, I think, giving buys too much credit. Maybe I'm giving them a little too much credit myself, but if he was averaging 120 by the time his buy hits, because he's playing 1 less game, now let's assume some rookie has come in and got you a 60 on the bench. You just need a premium that's doing 108 to score the same amount of points Dacos would be scoring if he went 120. So it's like, what do you think Dacos is going to go at the end of the day? You think he's doing 120? It's probably better starting, these more. I'm trying not to spoil my top 10 right now by saying people that obviously I've ranked highly. But there's other defenders you can start that will score or average over 108 in that period of time, and then you can bring Dacos in at that buy or after that buy. Plus, at the end of the day, round 0, it does count towards the rookies increasing in price. So the rookies are going to buy round 5 as much as Dacos will have his buy. Rookies will already have the normal 5 price rises would have, not 5 price rises, but they'd already have 5 games under their belt, which then we'd usually use to upgrade anyway. So, it might be a 2 down, 1 up at that point. We have boosts though, and we'd love to go early, and we have 40 trades. Like, is there really a risk of going early with that at the end of the day? And I just think that you can use the money more efficiently and just get them in after the buy.
Yeah, no, it's completely valid point. He makes some great references there. Absolutely. I can definitely see the logic towards that, mate. Damo, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, very similar to Vern. I'm very, very tempted to start him just because it is Dacos and he can score well no matter where he's playing. But yeah, just playing to the fixture more than anything. I think if he didn't have the early buy, 100% lock and load, but just because he's got that early buy, and there's a chance there. I think what's he priced on average at the moment? Is it 116? I think his break even is to start the season or thereabouts. Yeah, so I mean, you'll probably eclipse that, but all he needs is one of those games early on to be a bit of a down game to bring his 3-round average, rolling average down. And then, of course, that game against McGuinness, you'd think he's going to be worn like a glove yet again. Had a couple of scalps on him. But the thing with that, again, I was thinking about it today, is that it kind of leads into his buy. So you're only going to get the one price drop, and then you'd almost need to wait for his return game coming out of the buy to then, if his break even's massive, you might, have to wait another week to bring him in after his buy to really get the most out of the price drop. That's just something you're going to have to sort of deal with and just weigh up, what's the, the money savings in terms of the price he's going to drop in comparison to what he could score in his return game. So, but yeah, the buys, it's an absolute shitstorm because you've got to kind of think of, differentials like Vern touched on, playing guys over, the likes of Dacos and stuff. Can they average close enough? Can you perhaps invest in guys that are the lesser price that could, have a bit more upside, and say a Matt Crouch, who could earn a bit more coin, be a quick, pump and dump type situation. And, is that sort of your ticket to getting in a reduced day cost, and make up a 50 grand swing both ways to make up 100 grand, for example? Who knows? But I've yet to sort of look very, very closely at that as yet. But I think, it's something to be considered. But at this stage, I think I'll probably hold out for the old day costs.
Yep, completely reasonable, mate. I think this is an alias, John Smith. Definitely know who this is.
1882.
But Himmelberg, and I assume that's Harry, 450k defender. What's going on there? Is there any interest at all? I know he did well at the back end of last year when I think there was a little bit going on with his management and the Giants, and he basically just told them that he wants to play as a defender. 450k, what? I mean, I'm not interested at all. Vern, anything?
Look, I think his output might be higher than what it was last season. I don't see it being top 10. As we sort of touched on with Whitfield, there is a lot of distributors in that back line. There is Ash, there is Whitfield, there is Himmelberg. There is a lot of points sharing to the point that they had to move Cummings, who was a premium defender last season, at the start of last season, into the forward line / onto the sub list. Like, I get they're trying to really make room for Himmelberg down there, but it's not going to naturally result in SuperCoach points. And yes, he had that spree, 2 years ago on the back of at the end of the season where he went massive, but Ash wasn't really relevant there. I think either Whitfield was either just playing really poorly or had injured as he usually is. So there's too many, I think, cooks in the kitchen for Himmelberg to be a top 10 defender, in my opinion.
Yeah, understood. And I think at that price of 450, you're banking on him to really get into that top echelon of players.
Yeah.
Damo, any love for Himmelberg at all, mate?
Yeah, it's a tough one to pick. I mean, at least now there's a bit of certainty around him playing in defence, as you alluded to. And he actually came out himself, might have been postseason as early as that. And he said, I'm going to be playing in defence. And he said it emphatically. So at least we know that. And we know what he can score when he's playing in defence. But again, is he going to be playing a lockdown role? Is he going to be going back to that, loose man in defence where he can score those points? So I don't know. There's still a little bit too much uncertainty for me, but maybe he's the sort of guy that can be a bit of a pump and dump and, get you some early cash. That could be a ticket to someone like a Dacos that's probably shooting for the stars, but, that's kind of the way that we need to think, especially with 40 trades up our sleeves. You could probably afford to take the risk if you wanted to, but at this stage, probably not for me.
Yep, completely understood. Jay has put in Billy Frampton. Fun fact about Billy Frampton, he's definitely not a SuperCoach option, but he's the only player that Ken Hinkley has coached that has a premiership medallion. There you go. There's a little bit of history for today. Do we have anything else relevant right now? No. John Smith again says, geez, he's firing the comments in tonight. Any one of you looking at Witherden with Hearn retiring? That's just a flat no. Absolutely not. No.
No, he's not.
No.
No, the bloke can't kick. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm completely, just no. Definitely not. The Surf 420. I like this one. Is Tom Stewart one to avoid early? I worry he might be in the mud like Geelong these days. I'm not saying that Geelong won't be great, but there's been a lot of talk about Tom Stewart moving into the midfield. Do we think that increases his appeal as a Supercoach option, or does that decrease it? Vern, what are you thinking, mate? Because Tom Stewart has always just been a premium defender for me. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, if Cats end up not being great this season, that's usually good for defenders. You know, the more the ball's down in your defense, the better it usually is for the defenders to score Supercoach points. So them not being as good as what they have previously may be better for him. But him transitioning into the midfield, we've seen mixed results there. There's been times he's gone to the midfield and pumped out scores in a very small period of time. You know, gone into the midfield in the fourth quarter where he's done nothing for the game and pumped out like 50 to 60 points, and you're like, damn. And then other times he's gone in there and he hasn't touched the ball. So I don't know what to say. Like, I just don't know. I want to see him behind the ball. Please keep him there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly my thoughts. Damo, what are you thinking on that, mate? Tommy Stewart midfield, more appeal or no?
No appeal. Don't take him away from his one wood, which is in defence. Those games that you alluded to there, Vern, just quickly had a look. Round 17 against North had 26% CBAs, scored 124, but obviously played a majority of time in defence. But half the game in the midfield brought the result of 152, 53% CBAs, and then he backed it up. Round 22, 12% CBAs for 69, but that was kind of bookended by 124, 128, 134 around that game. So yeah, I think he does his best work where we all know he does in defence. So don't mess with a good thing.
And we'll read one more before we get back to our pick for the seventh highest averaging defender. Joshy again, fantastic question. Are you boys putting much thoughts into the buys, or are you picking the best players you can and with best 18 just going with the flow? A little bit of both personally. I'm definitely putting thoughts into the buys. I don't want to be starting, I guess, too many from the teams that have the early buys in the same rounds. I think is it Sydney and someone else. So I'm fairly sure that everyone has Grundy, but then you think like a Goulden as well. It's just, yeah, I'm trying to, I guess, limit how many I have. But also on the other side of it, I'm trying to just have the best starting team that I personally think I can make. Vern, what are you thinking, mate?
Yeah, I've got honestly high priority on the buys. As I sort of alluded to before with Dacos, this might be just because I've been playing NBL, as I mentioned, on the off season. I've been doing pretty well there. I mean, I'm 31 overall, and I won a weekly a few weeks ago, so that was pretty sick. And I've just been
Nice.
Yeah, I've just been like, you just ride the buys in NBL. You just ride them week in, week out, whichever team's on doubles. And it's a very different game the way it's sort of set up. So I don't know if I'm putting too much emphasis on it because of the success I've had there, but I do think they're very important.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Damo, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, pretty much the same as you boys. I think I'll be going a balance if I can. Interested to see what strategy people take. I mean, now that we've got 40 trades, it's confirmed. You can kind of almost do a lot of sideways trades, which has kind of been the cardinal sin of years gone by. So it's a bit of uncharted territory here. But, the popular one that's been floated is potentially starting with Tom Green and then trading him to Sammy Walsh when Walsh is coming out of his bye and when Tom Green's going into his bye. So stuff like that, moves like that, you could potentially do it if, you don't really want to cover that said premium with a rookie. Again, probably a bit of a broader discussion is probably worthwhile is in terms of like the value of trades now, because I mean, if you're burning a trade at the expense of trying to save 50 points in comparison to, playing a Walsh over a rookie as cover for say a Tom Green in that example, I still don't know if it's worth doing, but it's going to be an interesting, I guess, the way that people strategize and take tactics into the season.
Oh, can I jump in here with this?
Absolutely.
Because this is, it is a huge talking point, and I am very much against sidewaysing. And the reason for that will be if you're going from, as you mentioned, Walsh to a Green, I believe was the example for round 2, that's when you're going to be doing correction trades. You still only have 2 trades, and with a boost 3. And unless your team is perfect at that point, you're probably going to be wanting to do corrections. So I just think that's too risky to be planning to move somebody at that point in the season. And if you don't, then you're just going to have to hold them and take the rookie anyway. And as I said, I'm not a fan of that. And even later on, when you look towards when Dacos obviously has his bye, so Collingwood, Swans, and I think Melbourne, they have these later buys. That's once again, we're hitting upgrade season at that point. We want to be upgrading. If you're making a sideways at that point, that may be stopping you from getting the cash you need to make upgrades later on. And it might just put you 1 premium behind. And if you're 1 premium behind for the next 10 weeks of upgrades, that could be, it might only be 20 points each week, but that's 200 by the end of upgrade season. And I just think you're losing more than what you're gaining making a sideways like that. And it's very risky for, I think, very little reward. So.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. It's very foreign to me. I'd never do that. Like on our podcast, we preachers, that's one of the biggest cardinal sins to do. And part of the reason why so many people ran out of trades last year before the majority, I mean, there's obviously suspensions and injuries and stuff, but if people are still going in with that mindset, and even more so now, just because we've got some extra trades, which is only 4 upon last year, people can run into the exact same issues. So you've really got to divvy out, which is what I tend to do every year, is divvy out the number of trades that we've got in terms of upgrade trades, injury trades, /suspensions, and then upgrade, downgrade when you're cashing in rookies and bringing in new ones. So yeah, it's a very fair point, Vern, and I'm on your side 100%. Maybe a traditionalist, but I think, yeah, I've seen enough around the traps of running into danger all too often and burning through trades way too quickly. So no, I agree.
I could not agree more. I did that exactly last year. Just burnt through so many. No. That's one thing that I hope and plan to do better this year. Vern, this is a question for you, mate. Jay wants to know, are you starting Sicily D1 then if there's no Dacos?
I'm not actually.
Okay.
Look, I'll tell you who I'm starting at the end of this, because once again, trying not to spoil where my list is. Saying that, I might not be starting who I rank as D1. I might not even be starting who I rank as D2 or 3. As I mentioned, I value the buys quite highly, so just a little foreshadowing there.
Yep. No. Wonderful. Wonderful. This one is... this is terrible. This is terrible. I have another feeling I know exactly who this is. Asava Radagalia, the biggest cheap lock of the season. Surely, lads, will be the next Alir or AA. Yeah, that's terrible. That's from Nathan Budd. I think that's a special someone that I'm fair to say has done absolutely disgusting in every single fantasy format I've ever spoken to him about. So yeah, that's a great comment, mate. Joshy, before we go on to our 7th, these are some fantastic ones. Is Chapman the best defensive mid-price option? Because I think he is. Now, I see a lot of teams running Chapman at D3, and I just cannot get around that. I really can't. There's nothing against Chapman, but to play that wing role, I'm not too sure. 250k, it's cheap, but I'm not sold on it. Verns, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I mean, look, the news I'm hearing is that him and Harry Sharp are both, I think it's Harry Sharp, but him and Sharp are both playing for that wing spot. Wing spots usually aren't SuperCoach friendly. I don't know why we'd want to be getting a player who's playing a wing spot, even if they are that cheap. I mean, it just doesn't seem ideal.
Yep. Damo, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I must say, and it's probably in the same camp as the majority of people that like him. I am seduced looking at his, small sample size, obviously, but his first 2 games of last year, a 90 and a 70. But he's probably playing more predominantly off halfback there. But I think his fourth season this year, probably again going back to I'm a bit of a stats manager, you probably might have noticed, but he's probably fits the bracket of stepping up his game. So is this year the year that he can do it? But yeah, it comes down to position 100%. And yeah, fair point as well from Vern. Like, wingmen aren't traditionally the best scorers either. So the appeal probably isn't quite there. Freo as well, you got to factor in their form. are they going to be any better this year? Is it going to be another development year? I think I'm willing to take the punt, just probably purely based on his price point. If he doesn't work out, he's an easy, trade to someone else. So, I'm willing to take the punt, but just on a bloody hope and a prayer more than anything.
Yeah. Do you think? Sorry, another question I have here is just like, he's meant to be, obviously, he's up against Sharp for that spot. Do you think he's at risk of, if he does get this spot, that he's a few bad games away from them being like, you know what, Sharp, get in there, and he jumps to a sub position or something along those lines? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, it could be, I reckon. Looking at his history anyway, I don't think he's played as a sub in recent times, but 100%, like, devil's advocate, if that does happen and there's a bit of squeeze on for, the same spot, there's a chance that he gets squeezed out. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, he's definitely one to track over the preseason and see what role he gets, and if he actually performs well. If he doesn't perform well, you'd probably say that Sharp, would get the stronghold over him. But he's a maybe for me at the moment. Willing to take the risk based on price point, but if he doesn't show anything in the preseason, I'm happy enough to punt him for another rookie. There's enough value in defense there. I think you can easily sideways trade him to someone else.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Completely agree with all of that. And just wanting to add, I think people really like the look of their teams with him at D3, just because it enables so much. But obviously what we've got now is most definitely going to change. Moving back to our top 10, for number 7, I've got Harry Sheasel, pinned at a 105. I just reckon this kid is an absolute weapon. He is elite. Old man Zeebel's retired now. He's gone. We all also knew last year that Aaron Hall couldn't get a game. They have very similar outputs. They like that run and carry. As long as they don't muck around with him and start throwing him forward and whatnot. I like that halfback role for Sheasel. He just accumulates and just gets those points. So I could easily see him increasing from, I think it was 100 to, it was a 99.5 or something, all the way up to a 105. And that might be a big jump, but I don't think it's out of the question for someone with his talent. Ferns, who's your number 7, mate?
Yeah, look, Sheasel's a really hard one just to bring up because he is so talented. But as you mentioned, there is a little bit of news that he may be training with the mid group, a little bit of time forward, and he may not be behind the ball. And if he's not behind the ball, then that's probably a big hit to his SuperCoach scoring. Maybe. I mean, Absolutely. He is very talented, so going to be a lot harder. But next for me, where are we at? It is Ryan, actually, I have there. Look, I probably could have Ryan a little bit lower. It's hard to, I don't know. People are pretty burnt from Ryan, and I'm always very scared if I was to ever pick Ryan because he has been a bit inconsistent previously, and he always seems to pick up something and miss a game here or there. Last year, he was pretty damn good, though, and as you mentioned, Young going into the midfield, man, it was his back line at the end of the day, and he absolutely stomped. Like, he was so good back there, massive scores, just every single week, it felt like at the end of the season. The only thing I do feel a bit iffy there is obviously he did have a 109 average to end the year, but that was fluffed with the start of their season, which they had a completely different game style. It was just chip to chip in the back line, and every defender had absolutely fluffed stats at the start of that season. And then obviously they transitioned out of it, started actually winning games, and looked a lot better when they started moving the ball quicker. And he wasn't as good in the middle of the season when that was happening. But then, as you mentioned, Young moves out into the midfield, and all of a sudden Ryan steps it back up again. So I do think he'll be maybe not the 109 average. I had him pegged at 105. So I still think he'll be really good. But Ryan always scares me, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah. Wonderful. Damo, who are you thinking, mate?
Yeah, I've gone along the same lines as you, Scobes, just in terms of the good old She's Nuts. Do like the look of him. And a lot of people actually went early on trading him during the year, and he came home with a wet sail. He averaged in his last 7 games 112. Only one of those games was below 114 with the 56. And yeah, I mean, it probably comes down to, again, like we've alluded to, does he stick around and play that spot in defense, or does he push up more as a full-time mid and they kind of groom him more as that inside or, a bit of a dual inside-outside role for him? But I think he can still play a bit part in, say, in defense, but playing as a bit of a bit part role, rotating through the middle. I still think he can average well enough to, lift his average from, 99.5 last year to, another 5 to 10 potentially average points. But I reckon that 105 is probably what I've got him pegged around about. So in terms of role, it's musical chairs at North.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's a fantastic player, but I guess that's also a hindrance on him as well because he can play anywhere. But obviously for SuperCoach, we want him behind the ball. My number 6 is going to be controversial, so to speak. This bloke plays for Hawthorn. He's not currently a defender. It's Carl
I know who
Amon.
it is.
Yes. Now, Verns, I saw, I don't know if that was a positive scoff or a negative scoff.
Oh, no, I'm really glad that you did do that because I've got to be honest, Amon's on my list. And when we originally talked about top-rated defenders, I never specified if they need to be defense now or if they're going to be defender at the end of the year. So I'm glad that you've taken that as defender at the end of the year.
Absolutely. It's the highest averaging defender at the end of the year. I should have specified that, but this
You got me.
maybe I'm overselling him a bit, but from round 17 onwards at the back end last year, he averaged 106. His average disposals went from 21 to 28. He moved from a wing to a halfback role. His disposal efficiency went up, and so does his marks. In the last 6 rounds he played, he took 52 uncontested marks. In the first 16, he took 59 as a wingman. So he's just absolutely almost eclipsed that in almost a third or 2.5 times less. So it's all I can see is positive signs there. And I know he's a midfielder currently, but it's changed. Obviously, we had it after round 5 last year, the DPP edition. So now it's round 6 because we've got that wonderful, so to speak, round 0 starting us off. I just think this guy could absolutely explode. Everything that I've heard so far, it's him and Sicily taking the kickouts. So again, that's another monopoly he's got down there, which is wonderful for SuperCoach. And he did that at the back end of last year as well. So everything's staying the same and him getting even better at the role that he was introduced to. I'm all aboard this. I don't know if I'm overselling him because I've got him at a 106 with someone else. But I just think if we could grab him now, start him in the midfield, then move him back after round 6, if he's got that same role, he's easily going, well, what I reckon he easily goes 100 plus. Ferns, who's your number 6, mate?
Yeah, well, look, my number 6 is Houston. I did have him at a 106 average myself. I think Houston was maybe 106 average last year, around that. I think he could reciprocate that again this year. Don't think it's going to be too much of a change up at the end of the day for Port. So I don't see any reason why he couldn't just pull out the same numbers. We know how Houston works. Sometimes he has some stinkers, sometimes he has massive games, but he definitely had more consistency last year, and that was really impressive. And honestly, I expect him to sort of keep that up going into this year. I expect the same sort of consistency, and honestly, just he's been looking really good as a footballer, so really hope he can keep it up.
Literally can't say anything otherwise because Houston was tied on 106 average for me for number 5. So, he could have been 5 or 6. Damo, who are you thinking, mate, for your 6th highest averaging defender?
I've gone with the flying mullet here in Sinclair. I just think, last season, his average was 106.7, down from 113.7 the year prior to that. The one, I guess, drawback with him is playing through the middle. I think that does stunt his scoring output. But just with St Kilda's defensive, setup, and Ross the boss obviously loving that, being a big pillar in their structure, it bodes well for Sinclair. It's just a matter of whether or not he can go back to doing what he does best, playing off halfback, even if he's a high halfback roaming forward like Nicky Dacos does, and then pushes back when the ball's on transition or on turnover. I think there's enough of an upside there for him to potentially. I don't think he'll recapture that 113 that he had back in 2022, but I can see him pushing closer to the 110 mark for me. So he's my 6th rated highest defender.
Lovely, mate. Lovely. As I said before, I've got Houston at number 5 or number 6, either way, averaging 106. So, yeah, obviously he's really come into SuperCoach conversations recently. I'm not too sure he's going to continue how he has been going. Verns, who's your number 5, mate?
Yeah, so my number 5 was Amon. I put him at 107. Just sort of the same things that you talked about. Like Amon in the defender role looked really good at the end of last year. We've seen it previously with Hawthorn as well. They've had CJ Impey playing this quarterback role previously. Hawthorn can have multiple premium defenders, honestly, because Sicily's an intercept defender, and then they usually have a distributor that's also up there with him. So I think Amon just, fit in really well last year, gets a preseason under his belt, a bit more accustomed to the position, and probably syncs up a bit better with the team, hopefully hitting the new year. And I think can put out another, I guess, hopefully a good year of SuperCoach. Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, you heard me before. I'm huge on this bloke right now. Absolutely huge. Damo, who's your number 5, mate?
Yeah, I didn't even factor in Amon. I was just going for traditional starter defenders, but I totally agree with both of you boys. I do like the look of Amon, and he's last 6 games or thereabouts of the season really is enough of a snapshot to preview what I think he will be producing in 2024. So like the selection of him, but I've gone for Houston as well, like yourself, Scobes. Again, even though I've got him here, I'm not a massive fan of him. I don't know what it is, but if you look across his career, what he's been 3, 6, 7 years in the system now, and every year he's averaged, or prior to last year, his highest average was a 99, and then last year was a 106.1. So I don't know if that was an anomaly or if that's just something that's going to persist from here on out. But you can't really sneeze at 16 scores of 100 plus and 10 scores of 120 plus. His next best was in the season prior in 2022, 9 100 plus scores and 6 120 plus scores. So maybe he's building to something. Maybe this is the new norm for Houston. So I do like him from what I see on paper. But I don't know if I'll be starting him. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him finish inside the top 6.
Yeah, completely warranted, mate. Completely warranted. My number 4 is actually Luke Ryan. I've got him pinged at 108 average. Just think the amount of times that I've seen this bloke go into the last quarter on, say, a 70 or low 80s or whatever it might be, and he just absolutely pops. Like he just has these high 40-point quarters in him, and he just does so well. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think he tends to do a little bit better at home as well. So obviously, again, kind of like the Sinclair conversation we had earlier, it's about really picking your time and your runs for these types of blokes, just so you know that you're obviously maximising your trade when you're bringing them in so you get the highest points possible. But yeah, Luke Ryan is my number 4 for me at 108. Verns, what about yourself, mate? Who's number 4 for you?
Yeah, so I did put Sicily there.
Okay.
Look, I do think Sicily's still going to have a great year. I've put him at a 109 average. I think he might tone it back just a little bit with Amon and the team. I believe that did happen on the back end of last year when Amon did move back there. It did mean that Sicily's average dropped a little bit. Look, I still think he's a superstar at the end of the day. I mean, he averaged 113 or what it was last year. So I think, just a little bit of a drop-off because of Amon being down there. And I think Hawthorn will be a slightly better team as well. But, I mean, they really didn't do that bad last year. So,
I mean, they beat the premiers, so they must be doing something right. Damo, who's number 4 for you, mate?
I've gone with the next gen in Hayden Young. I think he'll step right up, and we spoke of him earlier on. Just that permanent move into the midfield. We had a snapshot of his last 5 games when he was playing predominantly in the midfield. Across the 5 games, 52% CBA, 77, 81, 78, and 81. And for those games, he averaged 106.8. Compare it to the 17 games prior to that when he was playing just his usual role in defence, he averaged a 90.2. So that's a 16 point six average difference there. So I think he can really step up his game. I think with the aging 5, anyone that picks 5. Honestly, but that's a different story for another day because he's burnt me many a time. But there's a bit of a vacancy there with Hayden Young, so I think he's the next gen alongside. I was going to say Chera for a second then, but alongside Brayshaw and the like he's going to absolutely smash it. So I do like the look of him. So he's my top 4 there.
I completely agree with I guess the upside from him. I had him, it was equal 10th for me, and I'm willing to happily start that. I think obviously he can definitely go large, as you just pointed out and alluded to, but I don't know how much of an increase he's going to have. I think 102 to 105, I'd be happy with. I'd be over the moon with. But yeah, he's definitely in that Whitfield Ridley 102 for me. So, but as you just pointed out, those stats are phenomenal.
The one thing that I love about his game playing in the engine room is if you compare his number of tackles across those games compared to his previous games when he's in defense, obviously high pressure situations, whatnot, he had 5 tackles, 10, 8, 7, and 7. So it's a bit of a reminder, to me anyway. It reminds me of a Jack Steele or a Took Miller. Just loves getting in and under and those pressure situations. So provides a bit of a high floor in his game, which I really like. So bit of a safety net there in terms of that. So I think there's enough of a snapshot there of data for me to take the plunge.
And at only 525k, I think there's a reason he's in so many teams. That price is just so appealing, and literally everything that you said, mate. Absolutely everything. We're going to read a few comments now before we get to our top 3. But this from John Smith, Bailey Dale, is he dud now? What's our thoughts on Bailey Dale? Because Joshy's posted that he's been training forward, and that's exactly what I've seen as well. Bailey Dale's up forward, and it seems like Bevo has gone a little less crazy with his moving of players. Like I've read that Caleb Daniel is going into the midfield, spending stints at half forward, but then going down back. But all I've read about Bailey Dale is that he's up forward. So I'm definitely not touching him. Ferns, any love for Bailey Dale at all?
Oh, no, not if he's got a forward role. That's he'd been in the forward line for a while, and that's why he became such a breakout when he did. Because he's been sitting in the forward line, not really a super coach pick, and then went to the back line and earned like 300k. So yeah, not touching him if he's in the forward line.
Yep, understood. I mean, Damo.
Yep.
I mean, anything?
Yeah, I agree. Nah, not looking at him. I think with Ed Richards down in defence as well, that's probably part of the reason why Bevo's thought, I've probably got too many of these guys, including the helmet, the wee man, that can play virtually these roles in defence. So it's probably prompted him to, throw around the magnets as he did with helmet during the year in 2023 and the like. So yeah, not for me. He doesn't present any upside whatsoever. He's played up forward.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic summary. The Surf 420, thoughts on Kitty Coleman, lads? It's just that price. I mean, I genuinely don't have anything against the pick at all. What do we think he could average? And is it impossible for him to say that he could average 95 plus? Is that out of this world, Ferns?
I don't think 95 plus is out of this world, but look, a lot of people are picking him up because Rich has moved on, and they're like, "Oh, someone's got to take the mantle." But the thing was, Rich was gone like most of the year anyway.
Yeah,
it really shouldn't be that much of a big difference. Yes, he had a massive grand final. I think that's what people are sort of looking at. Like, dude, guy came out in the grand final and was unbelievable. But just having a massive grand final doesn't mean that you come back next season performing at that level. And look, with Kitty Coleman, at the end of the day, in regards to the SuperCoach pick, Brisbane have this like round 2 bye. If you really want Kitty Coleman, you can honestly sit back. Not only do you get the open round, you can wait round 1 and then you can bring him in before his price rise. So there's really no rush to bring him in or even really overanalyze him right now because we get that open round look at him. So I'm not interested just yet. I'll wait until way later down the track.
Yeah, I mean, you echo my thoughts exactly. Damo, any love for Kitty Coleman at all? Or
I did initially, and then looking into it further, looking at the fixtures and whatnot, and the fact that you alluded to it there. That's kind of, I think, a lot of people's game plan, or at least I think it should be for those people that want to keep their cards not close to the chest, but it's going to be a common strategy, I think, in terms of that. We've got round 0, we've got round 1, we've got 2 looks at Kitty Coleman to see how he goes. But I think a lot of people are seduced by the fact that he scored 127 back-to-back in the prelim and in the grand final and looked really, really good. So 2 big back-to-back games. Recency bias, I think, comes into it more than anything. But I can probably see him averaging upwards close to around about 80. Don't know if that's going to be a top selection. We'll make you some coin. But, I think I'll just wait and see after his first couple of games, then heading to his buy and assess from there.
Yeah, you echo it exactly. Corey says, I don't mind this actually. Not so much the pick, but it's very thinking outside the box type of an operation. I reckon a sneaky defender pick could go well as a wingman is Clury as 140k, as Hearing could play on the wing this season as reports. I mean, is that not only 17k more than Sharp, and Sharp's in how many teams? I think 40% of teams. I can't comment on it because I know nothing about this. I haven't looked at it at all. I just no idea. I'll let that go through the keeper. Verns, any clue there, mate?
No, nothing from me.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's so many rookies that they have these names, and we expect so much from them. I think they're I don't know, a wingman 140k. I'm not loving that. Damo,
personally, I really rely a lot on the eye test. So until we start seeing these practice games and these round 0 games, I really need to see these rookies to know what I'm dealing with. And then I'll feel a lot more comfortable with them. So I mean, look, some of the rookies are a little bit easier if you count Williams as a rookie, things like that rookies we've seen before, and we have a bit of a better idea, and we hear reports of them moving roles and things like that. But a lot of these rookies, until we really get these practice games, I'm not really too interested in diving into them.
Yeah, absolutely. Damo, is there any? Nah.
Yeah, I can't add anything to that. Like Vern said, with rookies, especially if there's change of roles and stuff, you can't really assess until you see it with your own eyes. So wait and see with that. But I want to keep in mind, I guess, considering the cheapish price point of someone that's been in the game for a fair while, if there's a change in role.
Yep. No. Echo that completely. The Sir 420 says, thoughts on KFC no longer sponsoring SuperCoach, lads? I don't know if they're going to be renewing their sponsorship or not. I was never good enough to win a weekly or get, I guess, was it top 111 or something like that, where you get all these things. So it's a fantastic establishment and should be eaten there as much as possible. But definitely doesn't bother me because I'm not in that top echelon of SuperCoach players. Vern, what's your thoughts, mate?
Oh, I'll be a little disappointed. I mean, I don't have my voucher anymore because I went and used it already from last season. Just
smart, man.
You've got no money in your wallet. There's nothing in your account. I just look at that there and I'm just like, oh, yes, KFC it is, baby.
Yeah, perfect. Damo, why do you still have your voucher? What's wrong with you?
It was underneath a pile of papers, and it was only the other day that I was looking through and found it. But it came like this, almost torn in half. So I don't know if it's invalid. It's only hanging by a thread, so I better put this down so I don't invalidate it. It's Yeah, and I've also got the pair of socks as well. So I'm glad at least
Yes.
that I was able to
Yep.
finish in the top 1,000 and get the socks and whatnot, the merch. Not that I'll ever wear them, but
Yeah.
oh, who knows? Funky socks. But
I mean, that I was just going to say that voucher is probably worth more than that poster behind you, mate. So, yeah.
Which one?
Just the Crips one, the fraud Brownlow medalist.
Oh yeah, just like
Yeah.
at least he's got a bit of bit of metal around his neck compared to Dakes. He was stiff, wasn't he? Poor Dakos.
He's got a premiership medal, mate. If Cripps
Yeah,
had
that's
half
right.
a brain, he would have moved to West Coast 10 years ago and he would have had a flag. But that's a story for another time.
or just being
Joshy.
perennial wooden spooners.
Yes. And nothing makes me happier than seeing Carlton just be absolutely rabble. Joshy, another wonderful question. Do you think Ryan's points decreased due to Freo potentially changing their defensive exit strategy? Given how shit they were last season, very, very stagnant last season. I don't know because I didn't really watch a lot of Freo. I had no reason to. I didn't own Brayshaw nor Sarong. And when I owned Fife, he was injured before I could turn the actual game on. So, yeah, that's... I'm not too sure. I really don't know. All I know is that he just had these quarters where he'd go absolutely bananas and he'd drop a 40 or 50-point quarter. Vern, what's your thoughts, mate?
Well, look, I think it definitely decreases the floor because, as I mentioned at the start of last season, when they kicked Chip the Chip, his floor was very high because he was getting high possessions, high uncontested, and it was very easy for him. But honestly, with their exit strategy sort of increasing towards, midway through the season, towards the back end, his scoring was still premium level. It sort of died off in the middle, but as I mentioned, Hayden Young left and it was still fine. I don't think it's going to stop him from being a premium. Maybe has a little bit of a points regression. That's sort of what I said when I sort of placed him myself. But I don't think it's drastic enough to be like, oh, don't pick him. He's going to be shit. I think he's still a perfectly viable pick.
Yeah. I've never owned Luke Ryan, so I don't know what that experience is like. Damo, do you concur with that, or do you see it, I guess, differently?
No, I totally agree. I think there was, if my memory serves correct, but the slump that Freo went through, and then they came good for a little bit and went back to being shit again. I think part of the reason was, what's his name, Longview was lauded for changing their defensive setup, and they were being too defensive. So I think they changed that in season. I may be imagining that, but his points didn't really decrease or increase massively, but. In terms of going into 2024, how they're going to assess game plans. Again, well, I'll just have to wait to see how they structure up across the preseason and any of those, or the one practice game they're going to have, and then the scratch matches and stuff as well. But again, I probably won't choose Luke Ryan. I never really have owned him like yourself, Scobes. Not a massive fan of him just because of the up and down nature of his game. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I reckon.
Yep, wonderful. Josh is on fire tonight because this bloke, I read this too, and it's just a massive wait and see for me. But Josh has put in, this is completely rogue, but Connor Buderick said that Dimmer told him that he sees him as a Jaden Short type. 301k, just keep him on the radar. Absolutely. I know it's a little bit on the pricier side it's 50k more than Chapman. But if he's anything like Jaden Short and Dimmer turns him into something sensational at 301k, those practice games and match simulations, I'd be all over that. Verns, agree, disagree?
Look, first time I've seen this, reading it right now, but
Yep.
I mean, it depends on what kind of Jaden Short we're talking about here, because Jaden Short was a Mr. Fix-It for a long period of time there, where his SuperCoach scores really fluctuated. So if we're talking Jaden Short behind the ball, 100%,
Yes.
we love those kind of players for SuperCoach. If we're talking about Jaden Short, he's going forward, he's going on the wing, he's going on the ball, he's going wherever they need him to go. I mean, that's not really ideal for SuperCoach, so I guess it's how he interprets the Jaden Short type, what exactly he means by that. So, yeah, I guess we'll figure that out by round 0. So,
No, I'm fairly sure he's definitely relaying it as a behind the ball type operator.
Well, we love them for SuperCoach, so
Absolutely, absolutely. Damo, what's your thoughts on this? Have you seen this before?
I did hear about this, but I probably can't add too much on him and his role. Again, yeah, probably just have to wait and see. But I am worried. So is that price point correct? 301K?
Yes, I
Yeah, okay.
I assume so.
I wouldn't be confident in starting him, considering he's done 2 ACLs. He did one back in 2021 and 2022, and obviously only played the 2 games last year as well. So durability-wise, yeah, I wouldn't want to be paying that price for someone like him. Yeah, if it was a bit cheaper, potentially. But again, he'll have to jump out of the blocks in this proposed new role if he does take it for me to be tempted.
Yep, yeah, completely concur. We're going to move on to our top 3 defenders now, and we're just going to go through it straight away because we've been going for a while. It's been a fantastic discussion, and we'll wrap this up shortly. We've had fantastic viewers, fantastic questions. My number 3 is I have Tommy Stewart pinged at 111. I even with this midfield talk, I just think he's elite at doing what he does. He's just so consistent, and I think he averaged 113 last year. So I see him dropping off, but not too much that he's, I guess, falling out of that top echelon of players. Number 2, I have James Sicily. I don't think Amon is going to cause too much of a drama down there. Vern, you alluded to it before that they have in the past had so many ball users down there, and they've all done really well. So I've got Sicily at 115, and that leaves in my opinion, the highest averaging defender. I'm going to go with Billy Frampton of Collingwood. No, it's definitely Nick Dacos. I just think he's going at 117, so one more than last year. I mean, I could spend hours talking about that beautiful soul, but that's it. Nick Dacos, 117. That's who I think will be the top highest averaging defender. Vern, who's your top 3, mate?
Yeah, so same as you just started off. Stewart at number 3, put him at 1012. As you said, just he's elite. I don't really see him changing too much in his scoring at all. Even with that bit of a midfield time, as I mentioned, he previously when he's gone to the midfield, hasn't had terrible results going there. So it's not the worst case scenario if he spends a bit of time there. But yes, we'd love seeing him behind the ball. But yeah, happy to put him there. Number 2, now this one is probably a bit left of field, but I've put him for a massive breakout year. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think at the end of the day, everyone's starting him, but I'm putting him for a massive breakout year. I put Hayden Young for 114. I put him for a massive jump this year. Honestly, he's been an absolute talent since he came into the league. And look, he jumped into the midfield at the back end. Now he gets to actually get a proper preseason in, gets to work with the midfielders. I definitely think there's going to be an increase in scoring, and I'm touting him for a massive year. So I've put him 114, hoping for a massive one. At the end of the day, everyone's starting him, so it doesn't really matter what he and then number 1, your future Brownlow medalist, if not should have been already, of course, it is Nicky Dacos that I put for 120.
120. Wowee.
Yeah. Look, maybe a bit too high with the young bloods popping off this year, but I'm really expecting them to break out.
Wonderful. Damo, finish us off with the predictions, mate. Who's your top 3?
Yeah, nothing left to center here. But Verns, I did notice a little smile on your face when I mentioned Young coming in 4th for me. I didn't expect any of you boys to put him any higher than me. I thought maybe I went overs, but I went unders as it turned out. But I've got Tommy Stewart coming in 3rd. As we all know, he's an absolute gun. Adjusted average, of course, as well as 118.2. If you discount his round 1 game when he got injured, time on ground only 12%, obviously. So kind of, I guess, unders in terms of what he's priced at the moment when you factor that in. So I do like him. And then in 2nd spot, I'm toing and froing here. I'm going back and forth between Dacos and Sicily. I'll probably go with Sicily in 2nd spot because I'm a little bit worried about how opposition teams at various stages late in the year put a cooler or, negator on him and tried to chop out and nullify his, effectiveness, playing as a loose man virtually. So that worries me a little bit, but I still think he will be the second highest rating defender. May drop down, who knows? But as we know there, Dacos, number one, he's going to take the competition by storm. Brownlow medalist, bloody every single accolade apart from another premiership. I'm sorry, Scobes, done and dusted there. But at least you get another medal. You get one more medal around his neck.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I really hope that you're wrong about the premiership. But yeah, no, I think we all agree on the top three: Stu, Sicily, and then Dace. So leads me into
Apart from Ferns.
Oh yes, sorry. Yes, Ferns has gone nuclear with Hayden Young.
Yeah, I love it.
I like that Demo brought up the coolers as well, though. I did actually originally write that down when I did my list, and I totally blanked on it when I was talking about it. But yeah, no, I think coolers will be really important this year because obviously a few teams implemented them last year, and they were very, very successful with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if those same teams, St Kilda, North, do that again. If not, other teams potentially jump on that bandwagon where you tag the intercept defender, shut them down, let the ball come into your forward line and not get intercepted 20 times a game.
No, well, absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And there is nothing worse than when you, I guess, the start of the game, you're looking, for instance, you see Sicily run out there and he jogs into the back line, and then you see someone that you just know is going to sit on him all day and not care about whether they get a pill, but just negate him. So, yeah, it's so annoying, but obviously it's a tactic they will use. I know we did talk about the big guns, and they are the most expensive defenders. Do we just pay up for them at the start? Like, are they really going to drop that much that we can, I guess, do we think that, say, like, is a Sicily, is a Dacos, is a Stewart, are they going to drop, say, enough to warrant not starting them? Like, if they're only going to drop 50K, is that a big enough reason to not, I guess, start with them? Or do you think they're going to drop more? Or do you just lock them in straight away? Ferns, what do you think, mate?
Well, look, I think once again the buys play a big factor in that. In regards to my Dacos, comment earlier, I do think a lot of players can come out and burn you. Just for example, let's just say Bontempelli, you don't start him, he goes off nuts at the early season, dropping 130 every week, and he just tortures you because he gets so far ahead in total points, let alone the captaincy bonuses too, where Dacos automatically has a buy factored in. So even if, as I mentioned, he goes 120 and you think, oh man, this man's torching us, but then he has a buy factored in, a rookie scores 60, it's really only a 108 average. It's not actually as much damage as you think it would be. So I think that the damage that you would take from players on their buys don't warrant starting them. Sicily, Stewart, Amon, Houston, Ryan, they all fall into the category with no buy, though. Premium players at the top of their price. No reason you shouldn't be starting any of those, if not every single one you can fit in.
Yeah. No, I definitely see your point of view, mate. Damo, what are your thoughts? Do we just pay up for the big dogs, or do we hope to God that they drop, say, 75 to 100K to warrant bringing them in?
Sorry. Just firstly, just having a look at the chat. There's some absolutely loose units. When we're talking about loose units, obviously your mates, Scobes, one was asking about positions, and I won't go into detail, but that gave me
that's what we can't
earlier.
We can't read, and we appreciate every single person that drops by, whether it's posting about Connor Buderick or it's talking about Billy Frampton or things that we actually can't say right now. But we appreciate every single one of you, and we always do laugh. But do we pay up for the 100%. Big guns?
Well, I think it comes down to structure. For me, just looking across the park, I think there's probably the most value in defense in terms of guys like, obviously Zach Williams, there's Marty Hoare, Caulfield, Gipkus, Pink, potentially if he gets a game for North. There's all these lower guys that we need some spots for in order to jump on these relatively what they look like potentially being good cash cows. We all know what Marty Hoare can produce when he was previously at the Ds. Caulfield, it's question marks over his fitness, always has been, but new team at the Dogs. Can he carve himself out some nice averages there? But yeah, I think for me, I'll probably only start with two primos in defense, and Hayden Young's going to 100% be one of them. So I'll just need to work out who the next player is. At the moment, I've got Sicily, tempted by Dacos, but again, as we spoke about earlier, just with the buy structure, I might hold off. But otherwise, yeah, any other year, I'd be happy enough to get, 3 primos in defense. But this year, I'll go one short just because there's a bit of extra value there. But I can see people, the reason why people would jump on, extra primo here or there. But I'm banking on a couple of those. I just traditionally don't like paying top dollar. I'm a bit of a cheapskate when it comes to SuperCoach. And I think a lot of these guys, more often than not, will have, the higher the price point, all they need is, one down game and on the 3-round rolling average, or at least if 2 of those 3 games in the rolling average are pretty ordinary, they'll tumble down in price. So it's just a matter of just trying to jump on at the right time, and hopefully it bodes well and the timing is perfect, which is where a bit of luck and timing comes into it. But for me, I'll only be rolling with the 2 long answer short.
Can I jump in there? Does that mean that Chapman is at D3 for you?
At the moment, yep.
And if that just goes pear-shaped, say if he is playing a wing and it's just disgusting and there's nothing there for him, theoretically, what are you doing? Are you restructuring, or are you just dropping Chappie down even lower?
Well, at the moment, I've got 290K in the bank. So I'll have a look in terms of what else I have available. I'll make the decision prior to round 1. So I just assess it off, like we said earlier, in terms of how he looks across the preseason. In season, if he kind of carks it, I might just have to, hope. I won't have that much cash in the bank, I don't think, going into round 1. I don't think I've ever had that much cash, but might have to bank. I think Zach Williams, provided he's fit, everyone's going to be playing him, kind of negates any risk. Marty Hoare, I'm comfortable in playing, provided that he carves out a spot in defense. And then, the other 2 spots, if Chapman doesn't take up one of those, will be the likes of a Gibkiss or whatnot. So just treat those as I guess, playing cash cows, if I could say that. But I'll need to have a bit of a deep dive into who else we have available around about that 450 to 500K range and assess from there.
Yep. No, wonderful. Just, I guess, continuing on how you pointed out about Marty Hoare. I read that Christian Salem is looking at playing an inside mid role just in case. Obviously, Clary's had his off-field issues. He's been training there for the D, so hopefully that opens up a spot for Marty Hoare just running off halfback, because he looked very good in the VFL last year and definitely deserves another chance. That's going to wrap us up for now, because we've been going for literally almost 2 hours, if that. Just a very, very long time. But Vern, you're going to drop a league, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, definitely am. So for anyone that is still here, early bird gets the worm. You can join a league with me, Scobe, and the SuperCoach Pleb. So jump on your accounts, get them ready, get a pen ready, or just pause the video if you really need and write it down in a second. But that league code will be 964786. The SuperCoach Hub consensus team will be in there, where you can obviously go in and vote each week for the players, first of all, you want in our starting team, but also the trades to make week in, week out. A little bit of fun there for the community.
So just to go again, that code is 964786. Is that right?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you very much, mate. And also, thank you so much, Damo. We were meant to have SuperCoach Pleb on with us tonight, but in his old age, he actually has dementia and has forgotten somehow that he had prior arrangements with his girlfriend. Yes, in quotation marks. We don't know how true that is, or if he's just talking absolute crap, but I'm sure he'll be able to give a valid reason and explanation next week. But thank you so much, Ferns. You're going to be a regular. You're always going to be on here, mate. It's good to have another Collingwood supporter on here, but you can never have too many of them. And in all seriousness, this bloke is the best videographer you will ever find. It is such a shame he goes for Carlton, because he's a quality bloke. He can't carry water, which is just terrible. But Damo, thank you so much for jumping on. Tell us what the SuperCoach Edge is for anyone that's probably been living under a rock. What do you guys do?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to have a bit of banter with you, Scobes, and pleasure as well. First time meeting you, Verns. Really love the stuff that you smash out. So well done there. But yeah, we're virtually very, very similar channel. Pump out all things SuperCoach. You might have seen BBL SuperCoach. I'm an absolute nuffy with that. Co-hosted with my brother-in-law Liam, and yeah, we started delving in. Our first episode was released yesterday, and we've started looking at. We're calling it Forwards Week, so starting with primos, and then next episode mid prices and value picks, and then rookies, and then going rucks, midfielders, defenders. So yeah, it's been awesome fun. And yeah, feel free to jump across. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those regular places. And also as well, just in terms of codes, if I may drop another code here, it is a public league. But we will be organising a prize for the overall leader. So it is the SuperCoach Edge Legends Cup, and the code is 123391. So yeah, we have been doing that, going into our fourth season now. So yeah, available on Spotify, Apple, if you like to, hear the dulcet tones of Liam and I, or if you like to see our beautiful faces with the baggies in the background. I know you wouldn't, Scopes, but not your style.
Paper, mate.
But, otherwise,
paper.
Otherwise, you can catch us on YouTube. Just search for SuperCoach Edge and you'll find us there. But thank you so much again.
No, wonderful. Thank you so much for jumping on. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Every Tuesday we plan to be doing this. And hopefully next week, SuperCoach Pleb will be here in case he doesn't forget. Definitely remind him. Just let him know that whatever he was doing tonight clearly wasn't as important. Like, it's definitely not as important as what we were doing. SuperCoach Hub, we're available on YouTube, Spotify. Linktree's in the bio. Join the Discord. It is non-stop SuperCoach content, and it is just going absolutely bananas. So please, just jump on the Discord, or even at one of us on Twitter. My Twitter is at ScobyBryant36. Always down for a conversation. Always happy to view opinions, but preferably not from Carlton supporters. Verns, where can the listeners find you, mate, on social media? Because you do a lot of content, especially with the NBL that's currently going. So where can we find you, mate?
Yeah, so I mean, for Twitter or X, you can find me at Verns_SC. Usually posting regular updates of either how my team's going, what my trades are going to be going into weeks, things like that, to keep everyone up to date, so I don't just blindside you when I change my mind 2 minutes after I finished a review. And then we do have the YouTube channel, which is just Verns SuperCoach. As I mentioned, been pumping out NBL content. Did do an AFL video last week. But look, I'll probably keep the AFL content too in the preseason. And yeah.
No, sorry, mate. I just read a comment that it's bowled me. Absolutely bowled me. Thank you so much. Damo, where can the listeners find you, mate?
You can find us on it's absolutely bowled me over. This Josh bloke, absolute cracker. Sounds like a good bloke to have a beer with, and by the sounds of it, someone to have a cuddle with for you, Scopes, from what he's saying.
Genuinely, in all seriousness, this man knows his draft picks. Like, he's an electrician. Don't know how he's made it there, because he can't count. The only thing he can count is draft pick orders, and my goodness, he's good at them. But yeah, where can the listeners find you, mate?
So just go onto YouTube. So you've thrown me already onto YouTube and just search SuperCoach Edge. You'll find us there. We just did a bit of a fun giveaway last night as we ticked over our 1K subscriber milestone. So that was good fun. Did a virtual race. Go and check that out. It was quite funny. We'll do another giveaway as well. Potentially heading into the first buy, just to lift spirits, because the AFL is shit for their fixtures. But otherwise, yeah, you can check us out. The audio podcast, like I said, Spotify, iTunes, Apple, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, you can find us on Twitter as well. We're always putting out updates and whatnot. And then in terms of content in season, so I'll be doing our usual round by round, and then I do a separate video as well, just tracking my season individually and just providing a bit of insight into how we apply what we preach in our round by rounds and our philosophies and put into practice.
No, that's fantastic, mate. That's fantastic. Thank you, both of you, for joining me tonight. Next week's same time, hopefully, same night. And we'll actually be doing the mids next week. So that's going to be interesting as well. So if you're around, you've got nothing to do, definitely join the live stream. Probably don't show the comments to people that are not of age. And thank you so much for everyone that's joined, that's posted a comment that we could read, and even the ones that we can't read. We've all had a laugh. And thank you so much, Ferns. Thank you so much, Damo. Thank you for being here with me.
Pleasure. Catch you, boys.
Thanks for having us.